What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe down below, ring the bell so you don't miss any sort of content. Head over to X, follow us at JJ in the evening, join the conversation over there. As you can see, Josiah is not with me today. Believe it or not, he's actually having dinner with my wife. She's out in Ohio, I'm in Idaho, so she ended up making the trip out there this week, and he's taking my wife out to dinner. It's crazy, but I hope that he treats her nice tonight. Um, anyway, I wanted to start off with this. I saw this today. Russell Wilson ends up getting cut by the Denver Broncos. That's not really a huge shocker, I don't think, to anybody. Russell Wilson has kind of been the huge topic ever since he got to Denver, really, but especially after the poor season that he had with Nathaniel Hackett, and then in came Sean Payton, and it just really didn't seem to work until about midway through the season that started to kind of click. But at that point, the damage was kind of already done. It seemed like Sean Payton had kind of already made his decision by about week 3, week 4, that he was going to be moving on from Russ. Now, for Denver, I think it's pretty simple. They're going to be drafting a quarterback in the first round. The unintended consequence for Denver is the fact that they're going to be eating so much in dead cap that they're not going to be able to utilize this rookie contract, open space that most teams are able to end up utilizing, i.e. the Chargers, the Bengals, Mahomes, before he ended up getting paid, they were able to pay all these guys before. So if they end up drafting Bo Nix, which for me, that's the ultimate pick for Denver. I think that he works the best in Sean Payton's system. He reminds me the most of a Drew Brees type of player in this draft. I'm not saying that that's my player comp, but I think that that's the guy that reminds me the most of him, comparing him to everybody else. So for me, Denver, I think they're going to be fine. They're going to have to eat it for the next 2-3 years. But I mean, after that, I think that they'll be back in some good flexibility. Nobody's really expecting them to do too much, but I think that they can make the playoffs here in a couple of years if they hit on a few draft picks. And I think it starts in the first round here with a quarterback. But for Russell Wilson, everybody has been telling me that Pittsburgh has to be the spot. Pittsburgh is the team that I heard a lot at the combine. Apparently, is being reported. That they have a lot of interest. They can sign him for cheap. And while yes, it's not like if you end up signing Russell Wilson to a 2-year, maybe even just a 1-year vet minimum contract, I don't think that the Steeler fans are going to be coming after you if by week 4 or week 5 you turn back to Kenny Pickett. I don't think it makes sense for anybody to end up paying Russell Wilson between him and Pittsburgh. As a Bengal fan, I'd root for it because I do think that situation ends up coming out where week 4, week 5 ends up rolling around. They're still not looking any better than they did last year. And then all of a sudden, people are calling for Russell Wilson's head and calling for him to get benched. If you look at what Denver had surrounded him with, or at least what he came into, Denver wasn't a bad spot. If you remember the conversation when he got over there, it was, well, yeah, they did have to end up giving up Noah Fant, but they do still have above average weapons there at receiver. Now Williams, the running back, ended up getting hurt, but it's not like their running game was that poor this year. The defense was supposed to be really great. It was last year before the wheels kind of started to fall off there at the end. He had a lot of promise going into that team, and people were projecting them to win the division. As crazy as that sounds, people were projecting them to win the division when they got Russell Wilson. And if you look at the weaponry that he was surrounded around with Denver and compare it to what Pittsburgh is going to be surrounding him with, can I not argue that it's at least similar? It's not like Denver and Pittsburgh are that far off with their weaponry. I love George Pickens, but he's a little hit or miss. He has some drops that you're like, okay, but you can make these crazy ones. Has kind of an OBJ kind of effect with that. Deontay Johnson just can't seem to stay healthy. Pat Freiermuth, I think, is above average, but that's what he's got there in Denver. Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy are no scrubs. I know that Jeudy hasn't fulfilled on, some of the problems that he came to the league with. I'll let Steve Smith kind of handle that portion. But it's not like they're scrubs at wide receiver. And yeah, Pittsburgh's defense is going to be way better than Denver's. I'll give you that. But where the defense is going to be better, I would argue that the play calling is going to be worse, going from Sean Payton, arguably a top 10 at worst play caller in this league, going to Arthur Smith, who I would assume it's going to be better than Matt Canada's, because Matt Canada's offense was pretty trashy. But this is the same offense that got him fired there in Atlanta. And you can blame quarterback play, but you're going to put Russell Wilson and Kenny Pickett in that system. I just don't think the logic is there for Pittsburgh. I think that you have to just kind of either cross your fingers with Kenny Pickett or see if you can draft a quarterback in this upcoming one. But I don't think that Russell Wilson's the answer. Where I do think that it makes sense, where when I ran down the list of teams in this league that need a starting quarterback, and have a little bit of patience, to make it work, or where he can kind of resurrect his career, have a Baker Mayfield at Tampa type of thing. I think it's Vegas. So I don't think that Vegas would end up being, some sort of playoff team. But if you look at Russell Wilson right now, there's not a lot of teams that are going to want him. Let's just be point blank here. And it can't be age, because Kirk Cousins, from everything I'm hearing, that's the top looked at free agent quarterback. And that's 100% accurate. If you're Atlanta, you definitely have to grab him. But we're at the stage now where if they don't get Kirk Cousins, it makes more sense for them to get Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. So that's kind of where his stock is at. If he's looking to make the bag one more time, I think he's going to have to take a vet minimum contract on the team where he wouldn't really have to compete for the starting job, may have a slight competition early on in camp. Lifestyle-wise, I think Vegas makes sense. So if you remember when Russell Wilson was wanting to get out of Seattle, Vegas was one of the teams that he wanted to end up going to. There was the entertainment atmosphere, which works well for his wife, being in that industry. With Russ, there was a little bit of, the expectations would be super high. Nobody's expecting you to end up beating Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. They have Devontae Adams, they have Josh Jacobs, they have Max Crosby. Like, there's some pieces here to where it's not like it would be crazy if they end up clinching a wild card spot, because then maybe they swept Denver and they beat the tiebreaker that way. Maybe the Chargers just have a plethora of injuries, and then all of a sudden you're sitting in second place there in the AFC West. That's a very viable option. But if Russell Wilson wants to end up getting the bag one more time, Vegas is probably the spot to end up going. And I think it makes sense for Vegas as well. What do you have to lose? You're going to be sitting there in the basement if you don't get Russell Wilson. If you get him, you have a shot at maybe getting second if the situations I mentioned earlier end up happening. And a strong AFC, I would prefer to go to the NFC, but look at the teams that would actually need Russell Wilson services or could use them. And Seattle's actually one of them, but I don't think that there's any sort of reunion coming in. I had actually chuckled when I was going down the list. I was like, Seattle would be kind of interesting. All right, so I saw this. So I guess we were doing the mock draft yesterday, and then I ended up looking, at some other ones afterwards, and I was like, man, there's a lot of them that are actually looking like this. So if you haven't already checked out our mock draft, you can find it right there. It's pretty awesome. Josiah and I love the NFL offseason, playing the game with the free agents, and then obviously the draft, and kind of seeing where every team is going to end up being at. And when we were going down yesterday, Josiah was picking all the odd number picks, and then I was picking all the even number picks. And I picked Drake May there for the Commanders there too, just because I think that Drake May has a higher ceiling potential than Jaden Daniels. And then Josiah picks Jaden Daniels there at 3. And this is no shade at Josiah whatsoever, because I've seen this from a lot of people. I think that's completely asinine if you pick a quarterback and you're New England. If you look at the Mac Jones experiment, you can certainly point to the fact that the offensive coordinators were not suffice. They did have McDaniels the first year, then a defensive coordinator and a special teams coordinator, helping to coordinate the offense. And then this past season, they tried to resurrect it again with Bill O'Brien. But what was the main problem? It wasn't just the fact that he was incredibly inaccurate. Folks, he has Juju Smith-Schuster on his team as a wide receiver one option. Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki, if you look at the talent there for Mac Jones, it ain't like he's got a lot to work with. And if you bring in another kid to end up, leading the charge on your offense, you're going to be bringing him into that same situation. Now, I won't say that Jaden Daniels or Drake May or any of these guys, I won't say that those aren't better prospects than Mac Jones was coming out of the draft. But if you remember, the storyline with him was he was the most NFL-made quarterback in this upcoming draft. And people were really going for ceilings over, hey, he's ready to start now. His ceiling just won't be nearly as high as some of these other guys are. The top three quarterbacks, I think the ceilings are potentially higher than Mac Jones, but you're still going to have the same problem. Now, I know that the wide receiver draft, that the wide receivers in this draft, there's a plethora of them. There are certainly a lot, but why not go out there? And if you have the chance to end up getting, let's just break it into Madden terms, with Marvin Harrison, you're going as a prospect, and what the ceiling could be. The ceiling is a 99 overall. The second round guy that you end up, drafting, you are at least projecting him to be at best an 85, the 90 overall, ceiling type of prospect. When you watch the New England offense, when you watch their games, it is one of my least favorite watches. It's them in Carolina. I hate watching them. I actually didn't mind watching Commander games. It was specifically the games there with New England and Carolina. They could not get any sort of separation. They move so damn slow. They have such an archaic type of feel, a very early 2000s type of approach to offense. And I know that a bunch of shit is kind of shifting around. And I know that Gerard Mayo had ended up saying earlier on in this offseason that they need to end up prioritizing the most important position on the field. I understand that means quarterback. But if there's any shot at drafting Marvin Harrison and maybe either trading back in the first round or maybe you get lucky enough and he falls to you, Michael Penix has a second round grade. Now, with him throwing at the combine, I'm assuming that he might be able to throw himself into first round consideration again. But people are kind of concerned, even though he passed all the medical stuff this go around, with his previous injury history, people are kind of shying away from it. But with what you can end up doing with it, you draft so high in the second round of the draft. Why not? Honestly, I would even more prefer you to end up going a Dunze and Penix versus drafting some sort of quarterback in the first round here with pick 3. I just don't think it makes sense. I think it almost makes more sense for you to trade down and then go get Malik Neighbors and then again go try to get Penix or something with your second pick. But all these people saying that it's got to go quarterback. Look, I don't want to see New England just sit there, waste another draft pick and waste another quarterback's career when he could be going to a better spot. Maybe he falls to a place like Vegas. It makes no sense to me. But hey, we're probably going to see 3 quarterbacks taken, 3 straight. So I'm not going to sit here and dwell on it, but I just think it's stupid. All right, last thing here. So LeBron James ends up scoring or breaking the 40,000 mark for points scored. And Josiah and I had done a debate already with the Jordan LeBron GOAT debate. And I think that it just gets sillier and sillier by the year, because I don't think it's close anymore. I think that at one point, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, it was still close. But I think that with the longevity and the stats, he is seriously kicking Jordan's ass and everything. It's just not that 8-year stretch rather, that Jordan ended up having. But I mean, if you look at some of these, so LeBron ended up scoring, has gone over 40,000 points, right? There's only been 7 players total, including LeBron, that have went over 30. Kareem, Karl Malone, Kobe, Jordan, Dirk, and Wilt have reached the 30,000. Those are all-time legends. Wilt, especially, being that he scored the 100 points. I would have expected him to end up being a little bit higher up there, but he ended up having 31,000. LeBron is completely past all that, and it's not like he won a lot of scoring titles either. It's just been the consistent 27 fucking points a year that he ends up having. But so that represents less than 1%, obviously, of the league. So if you then go to where Jordan fans are going to end up getting you, is the fact that Jordan's got more playoff points than LeBron has. All right, cool. Playoff average per game, not points total, because at that point, then you'd have to combine everybody's careers. With Jordan, it's just a lot of, hey, in this stretch, he had the best, ever. And for that, I'll give that to you. I'll give you that peak Jordan way better than a lot of players in NBA history. I don't think that it's nearly as substantial, of a difference between that one and the 8 or 9 year stretch that LeBron went on. Where I guess 8-year stretch where he went to 8 straight finals. I'll say that Jordan ended up having a better peak than LeBron, but I don't think it's super massive. But if you want to end up taking the complete totality of the career, so I like to think of the GOAT conversation as, if I were going to end up starting any team from scratch, okay, and I got to pick any player ever, and I'm trying to get off to a great start as an NBA franchise, who am I going to end up picking first overall in selection to give me a good, solid ass career? If you're saying Jordan, I think you're lying at this point. The only people that are still sitting there saying that Jordan is the GOAT, if you look at how did Jordan play at 36, 37, 38, 39? And your answer is going to be, well, I don't know. I didn't catch him there at the local YMCA. Cool. I can turn on TNT and watch LeBron. Like, he has been the best player. I can tell you that. There's a reason why Jordan didn't make the playoffs there with the Wizards. There's a reason why Jordan couldn't make it out of the first round of the playoffs. And so he ended up getting the fucking East All-Star team there to end up rallying around him. I don't want to take anything away from Jordan. I think that he very well may be second best all time. But the people that are still sitting here today, because I still saw it yesterday, people sitting there going, yeah, well, I still think that Jordan could end up taking LeBron one-on-one. To be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know if peak Jordan or peak LeBron one-on-one. I don't know who wins that. But I do know one thing. Nobody's ever going to be able to beat that damn scoring title. Nobody's going to ever. Nobody's going to end up playing the amount of minutes. Nobody's going to have the durability. LeBron, in his first, I believe it was his first 8 or 9 seasons, he missed 40 games. 40 games? Dude, that's absolutely ridiculous. Only 9 players ever have averaged at least 25 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists in a season. 32 times in total. James this season is on pace and doing it for the 12th time in his career. Jordan has only done it once. there's just that level of consistency throughout the career that you can't ignore it. It's at some point you have to realize that LeBron's not going to let up. He's going to call it a career when he wants to, and he's basically beating it in all of us that he is the greatest player in NBA history, and I recognize him as my king. He's my other tribal chief. Roman Reigns is still my tribal chief. But all right, guys, that is all I have today. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe down below, ring the bell so you don't miss any sort of content. Head over to X, follow us at JJ in the evening. Join the conversation over there. Go ahead and comment down below if you still think that the LeBron Jordan GOAT case is still out there on LeBron. But who day? Let's go pay T. Higgins, baby. Come on.